coming up in this episode.
So there are a lot of funds going into the Indian market, and there is a mobility there, and they want to invest. You need to have a product which is maybe an MVP or a prototype. Then you have a bit of traction, which can be a wait list, or you are talking to a lot of customers and there is a good feedback or testimonial. Or you
So if I ever encounter someone, and I have plenty of times, they're saying, I want to pursue this, I want to do this. If I see a huge red flag of like, you're going to put yourself or your family or whoever in jeopardy if you were to do it this way or to do it at all, I will say, because I feel like that's a responsibility as a human being to be like, this isn't a good idea for you. Yeah.
As an immigrant also, you need to be very open and receptive about others' culture. You open up, you talk to people, and then you share your culture, and then you find a mutual ground where you respect both yours and theirs culture, and then share it.
The Founders Unplugged podcast, hosted by Greg McCallum. Raw, uncensored conversations with startup founders.
Everything good?
Yeah, everything is good so far. Went to India, crazy there. It's about 47 degrees Celsius right there. So just came back to the UK and enjoying the weather, firstly.
Yeah.
Overall, it's good. The business is going well. We were able to bootstrap it so far, raising funds at the moment. And also, today is the day we are generating our first revenue today.
So, really? Amazing. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I have a call with the customer at 3. So hopefully things will go all right. Yeah.
That's amazing. That it's you probably see this all the time, and people talk about this all the time. That it's always said that as a founder, you will always remember that first paying customer. You never forget that day, and now you've got it immortalized in a Founders Unplugged episode.
Yeah,
that's not that
how's things with you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Very good. Busy, as you can see, judging by my lateness today as well. But yeah, very, very good. Like I said, we're getting to, this is the 40th episode, the last episode of Founders Unplugged season 2. And which I finally made the decision to end season 2 because it kept going and going and going.
This was quite long, yeah.
It was quite long, yeah. The first season was only 13 episodes, so I was like, okay, we should probably take a break. I need a break, and then we'll look at season 3 that is July. So, but yeah, and it's doing great. Loads of people watching and listening. So, because I've got amazing guests like you who share their story and what they're doing with their businesses and stuff. So,
yeah, thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's absolutely my pleasure. So, so look, let's kick off, properly, I guess, if you want to call it that, if there is such a thing on my show, which is to tell everyone who you are. And a bit about the business, and take as much time as you need to explain both.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Athar. I'm a first-time immigrant in the UK. My co-founder is same. We are from India, and we have built a tech startup in the UK, which is ThirdRetail. So ThirdRetail, basically, in a single line, if I would say, we enable e-commerce brand to sell their products via retail shelves. So basically, we are trying to create an affordable omni-channel offline experience for D2C brands. So that's what we are doing. Basically, we do it with the help of Marketplace, which is where an e-commerce brand come to the platform, identify which shelf they want to put their product in as per the ICPs, as per the different parameters, which basically we identify with the help of our algorithm. And then we put their products on the shelf, make sales happen. That is our marketplace end of the business. We also have a software end, which is basically where we connect with the backend of like Shopify backend or WooCommerce. We connect with the backend of e-commerce brand. At the same time, we connected with the POS system of retail store and identify which sort of units are not selling well, which can be replaced, and what are the underperforming shelves, how to build that synergy. So that's what we are trying to do with the help of software. So yeah, we started our company about 6 months back. We registered it. Being an international founders, there is a particular thing which is sort your work rights and visa rights before you build anything. So that took us another 6 months. So I came to the UK for my second master's, and this was my master's project, the final project I did. And this is where identified how things are happening in the ecosystem. I was working in generative AI for e-commerce businesses, understanding the data points and all those things which suggested that okay, there needs to be a solution, there needs to be a synergy between online and offline, and that's what I did. Before ThirdRetail, I was in India, have worked with multiple startups, and mostly in marketplaces. And my roles were probably into supply and launching categories, and the product side. So yeah, so I take care of products. I've taken care of products for generative AI for e-commerce in the UK. I've also headed product for Prebird Club, which is basically marketplace for social senior adults around the globe, and that was my last stint. And yeah, this is a bit background about me of what I've been up to.
Great, lots for me to dig into there. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. So where did you go to university? Where did you study?
University of Huddersfield. My master's was into international business and entrepreneurship.
Right, brilliant. And did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Got distinction. It was crazy journey, and got to talk to a lot of people, a lot of amazing people who were working in this industry across Germany, UK, and yeah, that's where the all laying stones were happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's a great opportunity because I think we mentioned this before when we first met. You know, I was
Mhm.
born and raised in Oxford, and in Oxford there's a huge international student base, and
Yeah.
actually in my house we always had foreign students living with us. So we always had
Mhm.
at least 3 or 4 foreign students
Yeah.
living with us at any time from anywhere in the world. It was amazing,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
dinner table always international, always full. It was fantastic, and so I've seen firsthand how incredibly useful it is for students to really get the most out of
Yes.
or any foreigner really to really get the most out of learning about the country they're in, or meeting new people through study. Like
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
way more I think helpful than just coming over getting a job, because you just go in
Yeah.
and all you're doing is you're getting a job, you're going home, you're sleeping, you're going out, you're going to the job, going home, sleeping, just like the rest of us.
Yeah,
It's like, but
it's completely a different journey when
yeah,
you are
absolutely.
an international student and then you jump into entrepreneurship. It's completely different journey, and I think those are the laying stones, right? When you are an
Mm,
international student, you get out of your comfort zone. You try to understand the perspective of others.
mm,
You sort of build a bridge between yourself and the other
mm,
communities, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about, right? You At the end of the day, you are building a bridge between yourself and the customers, and then you are solving the pain points.
mm.
And yeah, that's I agree with that.
Yeah, it would be very easy to fall into the trap of just being quite segregated from the rest of
Yes.
the rest of
Yeah.
the world almost. But
Yeah.
and even native, I say native, but like people who live, born and raised in the country are guilty of that too, of
Yeah.
just going to work and not
Yeah.
meeting anyone. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it happens very easily. So tell me then, how did you come up with the idea for the platform?
So it all started like about 7 years back. I was doing my MBA, and one of my major for MBA was retail. And at that point of time, if you remember, like 6, 7 years back, there was an e-commerce boom, right? All
Yeah.
the e-commerce, there was no market entry barrier. Businesses were booming up, and India was one of the market which is high volume, high scale market. Lot of people, lot of consumers. So there was a huge boom. And during my retail, I learned about a concept which was profit per square foot in an offline retail. And that stuck with me because that was the core principle how retail started, anywhere around the world, that you
Mm.
understand the profit per square foot, you optimize in store, layout, and try to bring revenue to your store.
I mean,
And
that's an entire science, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
that's
really,
an
yeah,
emphasis. Yes,
yeah, it's really
exactly,
interesting. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's where it has been lost. So there was a different sort of retail that come up, which was discounting and stuff. So yeah, I mean, that was the concept which stuck with me. And I used to go to shopping malls and shopping centers. I used to see that a lot of stores are shutting down. There are a lot of
Mm,
stores which is going out of the business, new stores coming in,
mm,
and they were all fighting for the same pie of the same part of the pie, right? And that's where I understood that okay, there needs to be a solution, and there has to be a symbiotic relationship between online and offline, where they both grow, they both sort of get advantage of each other's strength. And yeah, they at the end of the day, it's the end user, the convenience of shopping, the affordability, the accessibility, that's what mattered. And yeah, that was the problem identification. It took me around 6, 7 years to learn how to solve such a huge scale problem. Retail is a legacy industry, right? So
mm.
I worked with multiple marketplaces. Marketplaces are often notorious to, solve such a big problem on a high scale. So yeah, that was my first point where I understood, okay, there is a supply and demand game where you sort of build a particular convenience of a platform which user can use and, do all the things that they do. And after that, I came to the UK. While I was doing my master's, I was working with a data science company for my part-time role, and I was taking care of their product section. So in that role, we basically converted their data science ability into a generative AI for e-commerce. So the idea was to generate better images based on the sales data, on the demographics and all the things that is available on the Shopify backend. We studied that and we analyzed it in our model, and then we generated better images with the help of LLM models which were available. And that's where the other half clicked, that okay, there is a solution which is available already in the data. We just need to analyze it and then connect it. So the idea was to align both the things, the marketplace side, the software side. But then again, for a marketplace, the biggest challenge is to create distribution, network effect. So that's what we decided, that, okay, firstly, we'll launch a marketplace. We'll try and create a network effect, supply network, and, sort of multiple cities, launch multiple cities. And then by second year, we will launch our software end, which basically becomes the enabler, the transaction enabler, which identifies, okay, what to sell, where to sell, how much to produce, so that kind of thing. So
yeah. And that is one of the challenges with marketplaces, is having to do the sort of phases, which we'll get into, I'm sure, in a moment. But I wanted to just clarify for people listening as well that the sort of the concept, because I think it's bloody genius, which is this and the website for ThirdRetail will be in the description if people want to check it out as well. Either if you're a shop owner or a seller of any kind. But essentially, it gives the ability for sellers to rent a shelf, right? Rent space in otherwise empty areas or shelf space in shops, right?
Yes.
So, so what would you say is the benefit to both parties there? So, to the sellers and to and also what kind of sellers primarily?
Okay.
Would you think
So
take advantage of that?
yes. So firstly, let me take you through the ICPs that we are targeting. So the on the shop side, the ICP is small stores, medium stores, and some independent chains, which is like 4-5 stores chains. Like if you see in London, there is a organic store chain which is called the Harvest. So we are having a conversation with them to onboard them. So stores like that in FMCG or other categories, we are multi-category business. But right now, we are just launching FMCG because of our control in the market. So that is our ICP for store side. On e-commerce side, we are very specific that we want to cater to new brands, the struggling brands which do not have distribution capabilities or which is struggling with high customer acquisition cost. Because at the end of the day, if you want to acquire customers online, you have to pay to Google, Facebook, and all those ads platform, right? And that has increased by 222% in last 10 years. So it's crazy out there. You are fighting for the same, demographics. If you are going for premium location, you need to pay more. If you're going for, other demographics, it's different. So that is the pain point there. So we are targeting any business, any e-commerce business, which is below 5 million worth of revenue in their, year plan. And they are new brands, they are struggling brands, or they want to grow at a space, like they want to experiment offline distribution, or they want to they don't have access to distributors who would put their product on the shelf. And that is the case, right? Distributors are very specific with the product they distribute in the market. They want to have that high commission. They want to have a brand which is already marketing on other channels so that they can distribute it on those shelves. And they have a limited number of shelves. Every distributor have certain chain of network of stores where they will put the product. So it's like fighting for the same space and changing the product. So that kind of problem was there. So we thought, okay, let's marry online and offline on and sort of a platform where it's very easy to rent, like you rent a room on Airbnb. You can go on a platform and book a shelf and put your product there. So yeah.
So literally sellers can sort of browse, or they will eventually be able to just browse that list of empty spaces of shelves within shops and go click book for this specific time period, like you say, just like Airbnb.
Yeah. It's as simple as that. It's that simple. The idea is also the thing is that we are not putting empty shelves or spaces out there. The idea is to help retail stores. Now comes the part, the question where you ask what's the benefit for both the sides.
Mm.
For retail store, the problem is that small pop-in store or small retailers, they don't understand the data points that, okay, they have a POS machine with them. They have inventory that comes in and inventory that goes out, but they don't understand what kind of products are selling more on the shelf, or what kind of, shelves are underperforming. So the
Right.
idea is,
Yeah, so they don't have the level of infrastructure that
yeah,
some of these
yes,
larger shops have to
yes,
do all that
yes.
analysis and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we say that, okay, you identified that, okay, XYZ shelf is not performing well. Why not replace that particular shelf with an e-commerce product which is selling well online, and then we match it. So that's the criteria we are matching with. And to validate this, actually, I worked with the cash and carry in London. So it's one of the biggest cash and carry 40,000 square foot warehouse. I used to sit behind the counter just to understand what is the purchasing behavior of shops. They used to come, they have no idea about the brands or something like that. They just have that, okay, this is what is running well on TikTok, give me that product and I'll just put it on the store. Yeah,
they sort of kind of go by instinct, or
instinct. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
or look at what they need to order or something like that.
yeah,
Right? It's a bit more sort of yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
So
yeah. It's really interesting. I remember when we first spoke, I was really blown away by the concept, because it makes sense to me. Like, and especially as we've seen at the result of COVID, and what that's had on a lot of high street shops, being closed and others struggling. And I know a couple of people that own independent shops, and they tell me that it's always been a struggle. COVID definitely didn't help, but it's always difficult. Unless you're one of the bigger brands, it's so expensive to pay rent and all the other bills, and to try and drive traffic into your business, and then to try and get them to spend money in your business. It's just everything seems to be stacked against online in real world retail, because of everyone seems to have bet big money on online, and that's really where all of the focus is. But yeah, so you mentioned today that you've got your first paying customer. So is that which side of the marketplace is that?
Yeah, sure. So ideally, we have 44 stores which have registered with us on waitlist, and we have taken 5 live already. And that's where we tested the supply side of the product, and the working and the onboarding journey and flows. Now today, the talk is with a vape brand. So you prefer vape, so
for those watching my opinion, I'm constantly vaping.
I've seen that. Yeah. So this is a vape brand, and this guy has just started, and so they are selling it online. And we had a conversation, and he said, "You want to test your product? I want distributors to sell my product. I don't have them, so why not put my products in the store?" So yeah, today's a conversation with them. Booking would happen, and then we'll be putting their products in 5 stores in central London. And yeah, that's the idea.
That's awesome. And well, yeah, and congratulations again. But it's interesting because it kind of goes to what we were saying about the difficulty with putting together marketplaces. And so by the sounds of it, what you decided to do was to focus on a specific area, get a group of shops signed up so that there were options for then the first sellers to come in, and then you've got that there. So presumably were you communicating with them kind of like, look, just give us some time, we need to build up a little group first, and then we're going to start approaching sellers? Is that kind of the tactic?
Yes, exactly. So what happened when we launched our basic MVP or landing page, we started receiving a lot of traffic because of some SEO things that we did. And there were a lot of brands from there were 4 brands from fashion category who registered with us, right?
Oh, really?
But
wow.
we could they registered. One was a brand from Portugal, and they are establishing in the UK, and they are inner garments brand for men, and they wanted to distribute the product. There was a clothing t-shirt brand and stuff. So at that point of time, we could not serve them, right? So because we need to have that much supply in that category to solve this. And fashion is one of the category which we believe is going to be a game changer for us, because that is the huge amount of wastage that happened there. So that is our key area that we want to focus. But right now, what we thought, okay, we have more control. My co-founder is into retail distribution, into FMCG. So he knows these, supply network very well. he knows how to build that, what goes on shelf and what sells. So the idea is, firstly, let's build the FMCG category, uh, because it's a small ticket size products. You can, test multiple things in it. You can, create a logistic channel, and then, integrate maybe a third party logistic to take the product and stuff. So it's a lot of experimenting right now for us. So we decided that, okay, we'll do FMCG, build supply first, maybe test with a few brands so that we understand end to end, sort of ecosystem. And then we enable payment gateway on the platform, take it live for the end user, and then, then it happens. Try to create a network effect. So more focus from the company would be always on supply, to build it on the field, because this is where you need to be on the field, talk to retail store, and then, bring them on board. And on the e-commerce side, which is demand, the idea is to build on SEO, build on marketing and stuff, so that we can take that. So that's the strategy for us.
Yeah, and it's always a struggle, because of, one of the most common phrases I hear from founders when I speak to them is they use the chicken and egg terminology, which always makes me laugh, because I think maybe even we used it when we first spoke as well. But it always makes me laugh, because there is already a definitive answer in science as to what came first. It's the egg. The egg came first. And I always tell people that when they say, and they're like, "What?" That's been answered for a very, very long time, actually. So I say to them the same thing. It's like when they're looking for advice or whatever, it's like, you've got to start with the egg. You got to start small. And there's usually a route, but it's just difficult to see sometimes, I think, because people are looking at the achieving the end goal first, and it doesn't work that way. You've got to create a micro version of your goal. But tell me a bit more about your co-founder you mentioned there. How did you guys meet, and what does he do?
So we did MBA together. So it's like, last 7-8 years we've been together, and always in the same project, delivered it at the university level. And then this was the guy who came to the UK first, and sort of kept hammering me that, okay, leave your good career, come to the UK, struggle a bit.
Right.
So I was very happy.
So it's all his fault.
Yeah, it was his fault. So I was very happy in India. My career was growing at 70% year on year. And that was a good jump for me. And, it was very good career. And this guy said, okay, you want to solve this problem, and this is a retail market which is a bit organized. You can scale from this and, scale it to the USA, Europe, come to the UK. And that's how I came after him. Like, he was here 1 year before me. So he is basically a real estate and retail distribution salesperson. He has worked with one of the biggest brand in India, scaled their real estate distribution, and now for last 3 years he's working in the UK, and working with one of the biggest distributor in UK for FMCG category, launching E40 and all those products onto the retail shelves. So that kind of depth he has into the market, and he's an engineer by background. So there's a technical guy turned into a revenue salesperson.
That's interesting. You don't often hear about that, do you?
Yeah. So he's that kind of person. I'm a non-technical economics guy turned technical product management and generative AI. So that's kind of combination.
You're both going the opposite way.
Yeah. And we are a team of 4. We have 2 engineers with us who are also a friend from 15 years back, the engineering guys. And they have helped us build the sort of infrastructure of the back end and the front end part so far. And the idea is to raise fast and get everyone on board, and that's the idea. We also have 2 amazing advisors. They are the founders of pictureframe.ai. So from day one, they are there. So they basically build computer vision models for retail and real estate businesses, where you identify who is walking in the store, and identification and all those things. So that kind of deep tech businesses they consult. So they are our advisors, and they are helping us build the machine learning part of the platform.
Today's episode is brought to you in partnership with Arama. Arama are a fantastic studio that have edited today's video, helped us with the clips and the show notes. If you have a podcast for your startup or for yourself as a founder or an entrepreneur, get in touch with them. They're fantastic at what they do. There's a link in the description. Check it out, and you can claim a very exclusive discount specifically for Founders Unplugged viewers. So check it out in the description. And again, a huge thank you to Arama for partnering with us on today's episode, and we very much hope to be working with them again in future. I have to ask you this, and this is going to be a little bit self-indulgent, so forgive me, but as an advisor, I'm interested to know what do you find beneficial about having advisors with you at this stage of the business?
I think it's the validation and approvals that you would need. Okay, so so this is the first time that I am at an end where no one asks question to me, I ask question to people. So this is a critical stage for me, and I need to be held accountable for whatever I do, and that is either by my co-founder or my advisors. So that's the first benefit. The key goal for me is that, okay, when I do something, do I have sort of validation, or is there something that they can add value to? And right now for us, the best part is overall the last 8 months they were there. Every month we used to get together, what's good, what's bad that has happened, and they help us identify, okay, you can streamline this, because they are a bootstrap business, so they know that, okay, how to bootstrap at such a scale. So that kind of help they give. They, on technical side, they obviously know their stuff. They are into tech, data science business, so they have helped us from day one to build the basic infrastructure of the model. And then now once we start building that software aspect, so they'll help us in building the whole stuff. So that kind of advice.
How did you go about finding them to be?
I worked with them.
Oh, right.
So,
So
yeah. So I was working for the company as a product lead, and when I left, they didn't wanted me to go, and so they asked me, why are you going? What are you building, or whatever you're trying to do? And that was a board meeting that happened. And after the board meeting, the founder said, "What do you want from us?" And that's how they came on board as an advisor. And that's the long relationship that we have.
That's nice validation in of itself, isn't it?
Exactly.
Just that they believed enough in you and the idea to say, we're willing to help you. And
yes.
That's really nice. And we need more, I think, camaraderie and I think it does exist actually. When individuals leave employment to go and found another company, usually there's quite a lot of support there within the startup ecosystem, which is nice. I think it's not like, oh, screw you, you're going to leave us. It's like good, another founder. We need more entrepreneurs and founders in the world. So that's great. So I mean that's a very good position to be in. But what would you say is maybe some good advice for founders who are maybe not fortunate enough to have worked with people that they could bring on as founders, but as advisors, but are looking for that kind of level of experience and input? Like, is there a good place people can go to maybe find that, do you think? Or
I think yes, definitely. I think one of the live example is you. I have had one call with you before for advisory, and I think you were very to the point person who knew what is happening with marketplaces and stuff. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place. We connected via LinkedIn. We connected via community, different communities out there in startup ecosystem. So in getting involved is the key aspect of it. If you want to build something, and if you don't have resources, if you don't have network, you have to build something. Either you build the resources, either you build the network. For us, it was easier to build the network, because I love to talk to people. I talk to other founders and learn from them, and I'm always happy to help them. And it's a vice versa relationship that I've formed. And that's how you explore. You reach out to LinkedIn, people like you who are doing advisory sessions, and your game, right? So that's where it comes all. You identify people, you reach out to them, have a conversation, have a discovery call, and if you feel that there is a value, take that relationship further, and that's how you build it.
Yeah, good advice. Very good advice. Just put yourself out there, basically.
Exactly.
You never know who you're going to meet. Yeah. So tell me a bit more about you're obviously bootstrapped at the moment, and you say you're looking at raising funds. Has that officially started now?
Yes, it has officially started. And so we were waiting for our first revenue to come in, so that we were able to prove the traction as well, because waitlist is there and it's a B2B. So that is a traction, but we wanted to be more sure about what is our ICP, how much they pay for a per booking. So what
Yeah.
is the first revenue look like and stuff. So we are in that phase, and at the same time we are raising funds. We are raising 320,000 SEIS. We are eligible. We have not applied for it yet. We want to apply as soon as possible, and we have received a commitment of 150K so far
Yeah.
from angels. And yeah, this is one of the founder from the Indian startup ecosystem, CEC, and one of the founder from the UK startup ecosystem. So yeah.
So that's already a great start. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. So what have been, how long have you been sort of going on the raise trail at the moment? Has it
About
been a while?
about 2 months,
Okay, it's
two
not
and a
that
half.
long then, really,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
grand scheme of things. So that's great progress already to have got
yeah.
that committed
Yeah.
that early. I mean, I suppose the fact that you've got obviously a great product and great backgrounds and experience, but then also like the advisory board and everything that you've built, really, because this is something that often you hear about, a lot of founders I know who are struggling to get any kind of interest because of the lack of revenue or the lack of traction. But like you said, you've got the waiting list, and you've got, even though it's just a one paying customer, it's something.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you've got the foundations, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget about. There are ways of actually counterbalancing the lack of traction or revenue by showing and demonstrating that you have taken the time to build that advisory board. You've got a great co-founder on board. You've got a group of skills, the team, and the experience behind you. There are other ways of demonstrating you are an investable business, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys obviously have all of that
Yeah.
there. So it sounds very
Yeah.
investable to me.
I think it's an observation that has happened over the last 6-8 months that there was a time when you used to raise based on an idea or maybe based on a presentation. There was a time, and that must be pre-COVID or maybe at the time of COVID when digital businesses were booming, and one of the biggest category was edtech. Anything
Yeah,
you
yeah.
building edtech, you used to get funds. Right now the ecosystem is a bit strange. I have tried to reach out to investors from the UK, from the US, Europe, and India. These were my four, target sets I was reaching out to, and the response is different for every different country, right?
Mhm.
So the US is more bullish on taking on pre-seed level stage of business where you have some working prototype, you have some sort of validation, and then yeah, they are bullish on taking a call, and then if they like everything, they are ready to invest. And I had approximately 2 to 3 calls where they suggested that why don't you flip your company to Delaware Corp, and then we might be able to invest. There was a fund, hustle fund, and those businesses. So there are good response from the US. UK was a bit different in terms of there is nothing called pre-seed from my personal experience. You need to
Yeah.
be yeah, you need to be at seed stage and
Yeah.
consider yourself pre-seed, and then you raise, which is basically your post product, post revenue, some sort. You have a good validation that you can prove the investors, and that was the UK ecosystem. We had a good conversation, but the only thing that didn't work out with SEIS funds was we were pre-revenue, and
Mm.
that was a concern. Europe is, again, they come on a call. That's a good conversation you can have, and sort of there are some funds who would co-invest with UK funds, so they have the same mentality of post revenue, and yeah, that kind of aspect you would find from Europe, but Europe is more open to having a conversation. And India is completely different. There is a lot of liquidity out there in the market. A lot of funds are investing from Middle East and Europe and US. So there are a lot of funds going into the Indian market, and there is a mobility there, and they want to invest. So that is a bit bullish again, like US. So this is the overall observation that we had. So
Mm.
the idea is that you need to be at a stage where you are able to cater to all those aspects. You need to have a product which is maybe an MVP or sort of a prototype. Then you have sort of bit of traction, which can be a wait list, or you are talking to a lot of customers and there is a good feedback or testimonial, or you are having a revenue, so that kind
Mm.
of thing. So you need to be at that stage to raise funds. That's what I think. And of course there are use cases where you are an open AI founder or something like that. You can raise just with the name, so that is a different scenario.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's understandable. If you're bringing with it a certain gravitas because of what you've done and what you've achieved, there is
Yes.
a certain amount of credibility. And I think this is what a lot of people don't understand when you see people complaining, like, oh, how is it this young guy who's just got an idea has got funded on on the back of a napkin with his idea when I've been building for 10 years and I can't even raise 100 pounds. And it's like, well, this person is ex Google, ex Meta, ex, da, 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 and it's like they have a very proven track record of high levels of execution, working at a very high level with, with investors or executives or whatever, you know what I mean? They're like,
Yes.
it's like they're going to fucking succeed. Like,
Exactly.
they have success written all over them because of their track record. For the most, it's nothing's guaranteed. Right?
Yeah.
It's about risk mitigation, right? For them.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, this isn't as high a risk as
True.
someone who's built something in their back garden and learned how to code by themselves in 2 weeks. It's like, you have to be realistic to some degree. Like, so
that's the harsh reality, right? You need
it
to
is. It's the harsh
understand
reality.
where you stand as a business, as an entrepreneur, what credibility you have. We did not have any credibility in the UK because we came from a different country and we started building, and then it's the work that we have done on the ground level. My co-founder has worked as a guy who's putting products on the shelf on different stores, so he knows what goes on the shelf. So he is very aware that what kind of supply, what kind of relation that needs to be built. I have worked with e-commerce backend data. I understand what kind of data points are there that we can use to build this model successful. And that's how we have built a bit of credibility, and that's how we understand that we don't have any very good brand on our CVs or something like that. So we need to prove it with the help of traction, customer base, revenue, and then we will raise from. So yeah.
But like you said, I think that it does count for something, your previous experiences, right? Because it is in the space, you understand the problem, and that's always something as a kind of as an angel investor myself, who doesn't do a huge amount, to be honest, and fairly new to it. I know, and so do the other investors I know, they'll look at that and say that is a level of credibility. It shows that they understand the market they're going into, and they don't have to they're not making assumptions from a false starting point, etc. So it's definitely worth something. I think a huge amount, in fact. I'd much rather be backing a founder that's analyzed the problem over many years and seen it firsthand than just someone who's just come up with putting their finger in the air like that just to see. So yeah, I think it's but it's challenging. It's a very challenging landscape at the moment, but I think in some ways for the better. It might not feel like it for a lot of founders at the moment, but I do think it's probably best for the overall landscape that we're going a little bit more into this direction. But we'll see. Talk to me a bit about some of the challenges, talking obviously about how challenging it's been to raise funds, but talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges you face. Are there how many, what were they? I mean, how have you overcome them in going from like you said, you were living out in India, your co-founder encouraging you to come over to the UK and sign this, and then going for it. There must have been a lot of roadblockers, a lot of challenges in the way of that whole process. So tell me a bit more about that and what you did to maybe try and overcome those.
Yeah, I think the biggest blocker that both the founders faced is the sort of, we have to start from minus. People in entrepreneurship starts from zero, but we have to start from minus because of our work rights. So there is a caveat to with the international founders that if you want to build in the UK, you have to be on a very specific visa, which is called innovator founder visa, and it is notoriously hard to obtain. So that's the biggest challenge. So now cut short to back 2 years back when I was doing my master's, and this was the project I wanted to build into. I had the work rights, I could build this, but to build it on a long run, I had to obtain a particular visa so that I can start a business, and there goes my 1 year. So that is 6 months of documentation and 6 months of building the basics and validation, talking to customers and documenting everything. So that took us 6 months, and we were behind everything. And that's where we submitted the documents. We got the visa approval. And in January, we got the visa approval. Next day, we registered the company. Next month, we launched the product. So that was our speed. Once
Wow.
we had that roadblocker removed, then we had that was the speed. And as a bootstrap business, there is like, a lot of limitation on the funds. You can't just unnecessarily spend on anything. We are still working on the AWS credits that we got and kind of thing.
Mm,
So you have to be very resourceful. Um, we will build this, but again, and we want to build this at a scale or at a level or a quality should be the world class, right? But you can't do that without the resources. So that was the conversation me and my co-founder had, that okay, uh, we will work our asses off in different places and then fund the business. And that's how we've funded it for so long. And right now, um, these challenges is to sort of bring the team full time on board so that we can sort of scale it. There are a lot of limitation. We have not enabled payment gateway onto the platform because we fear that okay, if it started to sort of blow up, like businesses started to understand this and they started to make a booking, and if we are not able to cater to that, that is the wrong experience that we don't want to have. So we, for us, everything is like we need to sort of take every step very carefully,
mm,
enable everything very carefully, and then again learn about the legals in the UK, because there are a lot of legal things in the UK that you need to be taking care of. A lot of sort of things that you need to do on insurance and all those stuff. So that is an additional pain that has come for us specifically. Other than that, I think it's a daily hustle. Every entrepreneur goes through the same. You go broke at one point of time in your career
mm.
of entrepreneurship, and then you build it, and that's the kind of thing starts.
So if it was that difficult to get that specific visa and the whole
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
were you not tempted just to start the business out in India? What was the reason behind wanting very specifically to move to the UK and found the business here?
I think we saw the gap in India. So basically, let me talk about the retail market in India and
Mm,
the UK and the difference. So Indian retail market is very unorganized. I would say that 80% of the market is unorganized, where you won't find even a POS machine, right? So
right.
it's very difficult to deliver that kind of product sophistication into a market where it is very hard to educate the customers. Sorry, it is going to be hard for to educate the customer in the UK as well, but there is infrastructure which is already there, so it
Mm,
can happen over a time where we talk to the store owners and suggest them that okay, AI is not that bad thing. When you
mhm,
enable it, it basically optimizes your sort of in-store profitability and stuff. So it is bit easier to do it here. And there are two aspects of our product. One is marketplace, one is SaaS. SaaS is something that we see a future in India because of the, sort of how it is growing right now. We want to launch it in India, but for marketplace, US, UK, and Europe are the biggest market that we want to explore. US is the key market, which is like 10x of e-commerce businesses and retail stores. So yeah, that was a simple decision that we need to take, and yeah.
makes sense. And you couldn't, I suppose, given the nature of the product, it would have been very difficult to try and run that from India as well, because,
Yeah.
like you said, you need to be able to ideally develop these relationships with these retailers and in a
Yes.
meaningful way. And
Yes.
with that distance, it just wouldn't have been possible, presumably, right?
Yeah, from my experience of marketplaces, I understood one thing, that when there is a commission involved, when there is a sort of something that you are going to take out of a transaction from a supply side, there is going to be a friction that is going to happen today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That is going to come, and that's where relationship comes in place, right? If you have not built relationship in a way, your supply is going to churn, and if your supply gets churn, your demand is going to suffer the pain. And that is where
Mm,
your marketplace is going to suffer the pain. So the idea is very simple. Our team would be more focused on on field, talking to supplier, building that relationship and critical mass, creating that network effect on the supply side. And rest, I'm 100% sure how to, scale this demand side, which is basically we didn't even do anything earlier. We were just launching a landing page, did a blog or two, and that's it. There was a demand generated automatically, because this is a valid pain point. Every D2C brand want to, like, there was a Shopify research that happened, and they said that approximately 75% of the retail shopping is going to happen offline in next 10 years, right? And e-commerce businesses, they want to explore into offline settings, but the cost, the inability to have that skill set and sort of operations level in offline category is what pushing them back, right? They're not going into it. And our competitors, which is like appearhere.co.uk, the average rental to take a shop on rent is around 70,000 or 80,000 pounds in central London, which is a
Mm,
crazy amount, like,
yeah.
and a small brand can't afford that, right? It's basically for big brands, like, all the established brands. So that's where we thought, okay, this is a valid gap that needs to be filled. The ICP needs to be very clear, and three things that we will focus on, which is accessibility, affordability, and AI. And these three things will make it happen for us.
It's really interesting what you said there about the potential friction that can be caused when there's essentially a commission of transactions that occurs between business and supplier. What do you mean by that specifically? How does that arise? Because that's really interesting, that observation.
So what happens is, okay, so suppose it's an Airbnb, right? You have a good house, you have put it on Airbnb, and you have started to generate revenue, right? Until and unless you are a corporate setup which has approximately 20, 30 Airbnb with you, you are a small business. You have two houses, and you have put it on Airbnb, and you started to see that, okay, Airbnb is charging you 20%, 25% commission on that, right? And there is a systematic booking happening. You have built relationship with the host, with the customers who come to the houses, and you have identified that, okay, you can also generate that kind of demand by collaborating with different travel partners and different digital platforms where you can list your products, and you can save on to that 20% commission, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
if you can do that, then there would be a doubt in your mind that, okay, why I am paying 20% commission from my side of the business, right? It's
Mm,
my business, I can scale it, I learn less, but I don't need to pay commission, and then I have a more control over it. So that's what is the pain point in the supply side of any marketplace, where you have built supply with hotels or restaurants and like Deliveroo, Uber Eats. These guys also face this, where friction happened because of increase in commissions and stuff. So that's where I think relationship comes into place, where you build a strong relationship. You keep on showing them value that you are able to deliver. It's
mm.
not just the booking that you're driving, it's the convenience, it's the hassle-free booking that you're driving. And that's where I think it's a savior.
That's really, yeah, I think a very, very astute observation. And as someone who's worked in marketplaces, I absolutely agree with that. It's the whole the grass is always greener kind of concept, I guess, isn't it? And a lot of marketplaces I've worked with or for, um, we've generally sort of looked at, yeah, obviously that very important relationship building, but then and maintaining those relationships through very efficient account management, so on. But also, what else can you provide? Additional
Mhm.
resources, education, assistance with marketing, business strategy. Like there are things that I think can be done there once you get to a certain scale.
Yes.
That really, like you say, just add value beyond just the obvious, because it can be started to taken for granted, like you said.
Mhm.
That yes, there's a convenience, this, that, and the other, but it starts to become forgotten about, because that 20% or 25% becomes the
Mhm.
big
Yeah.
looming sort of elephant in the room, doesn't it? That's a really, really interesting and
Yeah.
very important observation that I
Yeah.
haven't heard anyone really mention before, but it's very
Yeah.
astute. Yeah.
It is there definitely, because that's what, so we were always on the front end of the businesses, right?
Right.
My all my roles, I was talking to customers, I was launching categories, I was talking to supply, and this was very common. Why should I
Mm,
pay you money when I can directly get a customer to my
yeah.
platform? Why should I give my customers revenue to you? That's what the
Mm,
conversation happens, and
right.
that is very valid point. At the
It
end of
is.
the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the day, you are skating to the same customer, right? It's just that why you should be paid is that you have enabled a platform which was not there, which created convenience, affordability, accessibility, and that's why you should be paid. And that needs to be, sort of reiterated with the customers.
Mm.
It should be valued back or packed with the more insights, more strategies. I used to serve my customer with, um, uh, different different things other than what product I was selling to them, right?
Mm.
I was always trying to help them with their strategies. And
Mm.
there was always a synergy between what I was doing and what their strategies should be. But that's how you build a relationship. And that's where, our software end side of the business is. So our software side of the business, what it would do is basically it would understand their data points, right? Help them make that decision that, okay, if you are a store, these are your underperforming shelves. Now you cannot replace them, or you can't keep that shelf empty, because if you keep your shelf empty, people would think that the store is not working well, right?
Right.
So
Right.
those people would churn away at the gate, or they won't come in. You need to fill those shelves, and that's their pain point. They need to fill
Mm.
the shelf. At the end of the day, 44% of the retailers are left with unsold stock, and that unsold stock is directly written off from their books. So I was having a conversation with, I won't name the brand, one of the biggest grocery chain in the UK, biggest retailer, cheapest retailer. And they used to say that 25% of the stock gets unsold. And that ends up, getting off from the book, ended up in the landfill. And that is the wastage that it creates. So
Mm.
our software end basically understand that aspect. And then it matches it with the e-commerce and say that, okay, you remove that unsold, underperforming shelves, we'll fill it with high performing e-commerce product. And then after that, we'll analyze the data. We will give you custom strategies, which will be driven from the LLM based on your data. And then you can take decisions, expand, reduce, and those kind of things. So,
And
so
that's
that's,
huge amount of additional value there.
yes,
And
yes,
I suppose one of the biggest things is, to alleviate many and the potential churn or concern as well, is that you actually have to deliver on the initial promise in the first place, which
yes,
is like you're saying about, just, being more convenient, efficient, etc., etc. Like there's a lot of marketplaces which I think claim to do that, but actually fail just immediately on the first actual promise, which is that in the like you said, the partners, if you want to call them that, are actually
mhm,
correct. Like the
yeah,
suppliers are actually correct in their concern that they probably should do it themselves. Actually, at a
yeah,
certain point, like it becomes less sensible. And I suppose this is the biggest concern for a lot of, and usually the thing that I find investors are usually really drilling down on when they're
mhm,
looking at marketplaces, especially, is, or any product really. It's like
mhm,
what B2B product. It's like, why would they, is there not a way they can just generate the same results themselves,
yeah,
for a fraction of the cost? And so that's a really important thing. And so I love the strategy, the roadmap you have to getting to just increased value
yes,
for the B2B side there. That's great.
yeah.
Um,
And
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that's where we feel the confidence in the product, because I think there has to, marketplace is good, but there has to be an enabler which becomes like a, sort of decision maker partner for
Right,
the
right.
for the retail store. And yeah, I mean, that's the plan. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a challenge. It is a challenge because you got
it is.
many plates to spin when you're building a marketplace, many different stakeholders to keep happy.
Yes,
Um,
yes, it's a chaos.
yeah,
Marketplace is a chaos you need to navigate, and then at the end of the day, the value part is the biggest part, and that's where, So one of the common phenomena in marketplace is revenue leakage, right? Once you connect a buyer and a seller, then there is a high probability that they would connect offline, and then,
mm,
sort of build a relationship, and then you are cut out of it, and that's your revenue leakage, right? And that's where we think that, okay, we should build a platform that creates a distribution network rather than, sort of a buyer seller. It should be a distribution network for a retail, for an e-commerce, right? If I'm an e-commerce, if I want to build a relationship with one store from third retail platform, that is a different scenario. You can go and try it, but I am giving you access to 10 cities, hundreds of stores. Why would you want to go and have a manual relationship with the one store? I'm
mm,
giving you, like you see on your e-commerce backend, that okay, there is a good demand coming from London, Manchester, and Birmingham, right? And I'm giving you access to these stores, right? you have the access on the platform, you take the shelves on rent, you send your product to the stores, and sales happen. You get the whole value of the product, and retail store gets the extra revenue. They get to replace the underperforming shelves, and that's a relationship that they build. So it's a survival for both.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting. So tell me a bit more about you and your specific circumstance. You mentioned obviously about how difficult it was, the process of getting the visa and so on. But also from a personal standpoint, it must be equally difficult. You obviously have family out in India. Remind me again, are you married? Do you have kids? Or
Yeah. So I'm married. I got married last year, and just now
yes, of
when
course. Yes, I remember. Yeah. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. I just brought my wife to the UK with me this month.
Yes, that's why you were flying out, wasn't it? You were going out there. Sorry, I'm telling the story for you. But I'm remembering now what you told me. So you went out there, spent a bit of time there, and then came back.
We just came back here, and so it's going to be hard. She understands it, and that's the beauty of relationship, right? When you get a partner who understands what you're trying to do and they support you, then that's the best thing, right? Otherwise, you be single and then build a startup. So that's the two things, right? So if you are building a startup, get a right partner who understands you. That's another advice that I would give. And my partner understands that. Yeah, and my partner understands that. So it's gonna be challenging with managing cost and the cost of living crisis in the UK, which is quite high right at the moment. But I think once you have clarity, once you have right estimations when you'll be able to raise funds, if not, will you be able to bootstrap it, and how you're going to bootstrap it? And if those calculations are there, if you have that clarity with you, I think it would be easier. For me personally, it is challenging, but as I said, I have a friend who is my co-founder. So it's very clear when you have a friend as a co-founder, you get to share a lot of things. It's not just, business advices or, in meeting conversation. It's your personal life. It's your personal crisis that you share with each other. And that keeps you sane, right? That if one is down, the other one picks up. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
And well, very good advice. And I have found that some of the co-founders I've met that are friends outside of just being co-founders have some of the strongest co-founder relationships, which is obvious when you say it out loud, but it doesn't always happen like that. Obviously, there are a lot of people who create or come up with an idea in isolation and then find those co-founders later, and the dynamic is very, very different, and that can cause a lot of friction sometimes. But I suppose there are probably equally challenges of being friends as well.
Yes,
which is,
there are.
Yeah.
There are unspoken ones. You can't just, be a founder and then you execute at that level, right? When you are in a professional relationship, you get accountable for a lot of things, right? But when you are friends, you need to let go of few things and then, focus on the more important ones, and sort of then you build a relationship which is like a hybrid. It forms automatically. You just don't need to say anything. You start working, you start you set your expectations right, and then every once in a while have that harsh conversation, have that conversation where you say, okay, this was the bad things that happened, this was my responsibility, I could not deliver, this was your responsibility. And that kind of conversation is good to have. And I think that keeps you sane, because you get to see that, okay, both the founders are aligned, they are equally owned and taking the ownership and owning their fuck ups, and I'm also doing that. So that kind of things. So
yeah. So how long were you out in India for?
I was there for a month.
Yeah. And how was it?
It was good. So the idea was, while I'm at home, I talk to investors as well.
Okay.
So
Always working.
Always working. So I had a very good conversation on the flight. My economy class got upgraded to business, and I had an investor sitting beside me.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, and that's how an 100K commitment came in.
Oh, really? It's crazy, isn't it? I hear these stories all the time. Founders talking about, the cold outreach, the emails, the DMs, and the no, we're not interested, and then they just be sitting in the train or on a plane, and it's like, have 100K. It's like, for fuck's sake, what was all that for?
I mean, I have before going to the to India, I have done 80 odd outreach, had about 6 or 7 meetings or 10 meetings, I guess, with angels as well, and VC funds. And there was always this revenue thing
Yeah.
that was a problem. And this was the angel and founder of cryptocurrency company, and deep pockets, Middle East investors for them. So yeah, I mean, it was a very logical thing for them because they had an e-commerce business before, and they were simply able to see the difference and see the value. And we had like about 4 hours of conversation on the flight, and it was an 8 hour flight. It was midnight flight. The guy did not sleep. He was very interested into what I was building, and that
I mean,
conversation.
you don't get a 4-hour pitch with anyone else, do
No,
you?
no,
Like
no, no, no.
that's the yeah. So basically, he had no choice but
He
to
had no
invest.
choice. Yeah, because I don't know. I had this instinct, or there was a sort of, there was a sign that said. So I was reading this book from Joffrey, and this book is about investment and investing into founders. I'm not able to remember the exact name of the book. I'll be sharing that with you. So this book, I was reading it, and this person saw it, and this person reached out to me and said, okay, so what are you reading, so what are you up to and stuff. And then the conversation happened. I talked about my business, he talked about his business. They are a big company, like they do institutional funding into other high transaction business because of crypto payment gateway, and they sort of integrate their services within it, and then they do investment through their institutional investing company. And yeah, I mean, they were able to see that we will be able to do a lot of transaction on our platform. It's going to be a high transaction platform if it works all right. And yeah, that's where the synergy happened. There were a lot of details questions asking about how we are doing this. There were a lot of questions on the operational side about founders. And yeah, it was a good conversation to have. I was very happy when I landed in India,
Yeah.
and we have sent the due diligence talks, and yeah, let's see how it happens. And yeah, while I was there, I was talking to a few other investors. I had a very good conversation with Sequoia Capital India. And yeah, I mean, they do not invest in the UK ecosystem, but I had a good feedback from one of the founders, who were part of their portfolio, and they referred us. And one of the founders committed a check size of $10,000. So this is overall so far good. I'm still looking for a lead investor to come on board who can strategize the whole round. And yeah, that's it.
Great start to the trip to be landing and having had that conversation. So I guess there's some truth that it's important to read books.
Yes, it is. It is. I used to read a lot of books, but since ThirdRetail started, it's like as I didn't have a time to read it.
But if you hadn't picked that one up, then maybe that conversation wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
So I suppose that's good advice to give people. It's read books and and always get business class.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, it was completely out of the blue. It got upgraded to a business class, and yeah, and I think you would find investors in business class. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's that's an advice on the founders.
Yeah, not always easy, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And how is your wife finding things so far?
She is a bit skeptical about the weather because, as I said,
Yeah, we all are. That's cool. So she's already British, like because
yeah,
she's skeptical about
yeah.
weather,
So when we came back, we came back last week, and there was sunny days and stuff. Today morning, she woke up and said that it's raining. How
Oh,
come
right.
So I said, this is London.
So she got the wrong impression.
Yeah,
Oh, is this what it's like all the time?
And I told her, don't keep your expectation that there's gonna be a sunny day. So yeah.
Oh no, false advertising
Yeah.
immediately.
That was a bad.
Yeah. So is she going to be working, or is she not for now?
Yeah, for now, like I'm happy for her to explore and figure out what to do, but nothing as such at the moment. But yeah, about a month or two, she'll get into something so that she keeps herself busy.
Yeah.
And it's when you are just two people in a new country, you need to be somewhere, be busy and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and meeting new people, and just
Yes.
like you did, right, when you studied, that
Very
you need to
important.
try and
Yeah.
recreate that
Yeah.
that opportunity to meet more people and so on, make friends, build
Yes.
a support network, because Yeah, I can imagine must be very difficult
Yeah,
to find that support network and feel like you're building a home, right? As opposed to
yeah,
just feeling like you're on a long holiday and
yeah.
start getting homesick. What did she do back home? What was her job back home?
So she has done a master's recently, and she was doing a bakery course. She's very interested in chef and baking, baking side of the food sale. And yeah, she want to explore that. So hopefully, yeah.
That's great. I actually in another life I actually studied chefing, and so
Okay.
when I was in my late teens, early 20s,
Mhm.
I moved to France for a little bit and studied chefing there, and I had an opportunity to study chocolate making, which I
Okay.
was really considering, but at the time and still really kind of now, I didn't have much of a sweet tooth. So it
Mhm.
was like I was interested in it conceptually, but I didn't have much of a sweet tooth, so it didn't really make sense. But yes, but it's actually a really good industry to get into.
Yeah, yeah.
I think again, interesting. It kind of ties into what you're doing in a way. I've
Mhm.
noticed that a lot of people who love baking, for example, have the dream of like opening a bakery and things like that. And
Yeah.
every time I've seen that happen, it's a real struggle, because it's one thing to do something like that online or from home, but then to go into a lot or a shop, and the ridiculous overheads that are involved,
Yeah.
it's just insane. And I know that some of the people I know that have opened those bakeries have to rely solely on like these custom orders, bespoke things, just to stay alive, basically. Just the regular sales, even if you were
Mm.
to sell everything every day, it just wouldn't be enough. And of course
It's
the main problem with that
yeah.
business is you are pivotal to that business, because if you leave, then no one's baking the fucking cakes. And it's like, it's never a good business plan, I don't think, to have it so that your business relies on you being there all day, every day.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a 24/7 job. Like
yeah,
it's completely, you have to be there for every single decision. The supply chain is chaos. Anything that goes it doesn't come to your inventory, that is, it's screwed. And yeah, it's a tough business to have, and
mm,
it's a quite operational business, a lot of external dependencies. Hopefully, yeah, if she finds that she needs to do that, so I'll be happy to support her in building that. So
mm. I think what I love is, which is a startup thing, it's a founder thing, is the niche thing, right?
yes.
And so I met someone, it was actually my personal trainer who I had last year. um his girlfriend was baking on the side as like a little
Mm.
hobby. And so one day he came in with like a load of stuff, and obviously, he's my fucking personal trainer, and I'm, what are you doing, like, bringing these things in? But he was like, no, they're all high protein brownies. So like we were doing weight training and stuff, so it's like they're completely fine. They're like low, like keto, high protein, and all this. And I ate one, and it was so excuse me, it was a peanut butter and chocolate one, and it was fucking amazing. And I was like, my business brain just switched on. I was like, why isn't she selling these to people going to gyms? This is a brilliant idea. Like,
Yes.
if she was to just niche down and focus on this, I would order I said, I want another 20. Like, get them to me as soon as possible. I'll pay however much they are. I don't care. I was like, but I want them, can she deliver them to my house? And I was like, and then I suggested at one point, like, just tell her to make it a subscription service. Just get these to my house every week. Because people will pay, like bodybuilders and stuff will pay for their cheat day, right? To
and
have
and the very important part here is that more than they would pay, it's like it's a very social product. They can put it
right.
on their Instagram or TikTok, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like in today's landscape, if you have a B2C product that can be marketed by customer, which is
Right.
called customer generated content, and put it on sort of social, and that's it. Like, you have found your thing. You just need to scale it.
And then you just create incentives for them,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yes, exactly.
it's like,
Nice.
put on the box, like, take a selfie and tag us on Instagram and get
Yeah,
10% off
yeah,
your next order, or something like
yeah.
that. It's just, it's the whole work smart not hard thing. And
Unfortunately, that is not the case with B2B businesses. It's
no,
it's completely
take a
it's,
photo with our SaaS product. Like, can you
yeah, that
imagine if we did some of the same tactics? It would be hilarious.
it would work. It would work.
Just holding up a PC, like, monitor, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is third rate retail. Yeah. But yeah, well, I wish you the best of luck in
Thank you.
settling in and things like that. And for both of you, it's got to be, it can't be easy. And
Mhm.
as I think I told you before, my mother and father both immigrated to the UK, and they tell me stories of, obviously back then it was a very different landscape, but you know, it's never easy for people to immigrate to a country. I mean, how have you found the reception from British people, especially given the current climate at the moment, being very polarized? And I don't want to get too political, but you know, on this show we just talk about fucking everything.
No, I think,
but how have you found that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very valid and, you know, I like this question a lot because I wanted to share this experience. And so this is completely 360-degree different than what I expected. So the media is fucked up, right? So it's completely, they don't understand what they are serving and how hatred they are, you know, spreading the hatred and everything. So we had a different perspective that, okay, we are going to a white country where you would be, you know, facing all the racism and those kind of stuff. And trust me, the day I landed here, that's a different, you know, crazy story. The day I landed on Manchester Airport. I did not had my accommodation confirmation. So I was stuck on the airport. I did not have my accommodation confirmation. My card was not working. So I did not have the ability to pay. And I was stuck on the flyover of the airport, which is basically, you know, you have to go to the train station to go to Huddersfield and stuff. And I was stuck. I was lost. And that was my first experience with a British person. A lady came and she saw that I'm tensed. I'm trying to figure out things. And she very kindly offered me an help and, you know, said that what happened. I can see that you're a bit, you know, looking off. And I said, I'm not able to figure out which way to go, how to go to the station. And then, you know, I need to go to Huddersfield and stuff. And she kindly, politely took me with her, took me to the elevator, took me to the, you know, sort of station gate. And then she said that you just need to go there and purchase a ticket. And then she went back, you know, where she came from. And that was my experience, first experience that, okay, people are so nice. They are so helpful. I did not expected that, you know. I would not say that people would go out of their way to, you know, take you through something and then again they need to go somewhere else. So that was my first experience. And then I moved to my university. I started working in a part-time role with pictureframe.ai and as a product. And everyone there was so nice to me in terms of, like, you know, helping me out with the culture, because there is a different culture out here where there's pub and all those, you know, on weekends you go and sit in a bar and have drinks. I'm a Muslim, I don't drink, but I want to explore that culture. I want to have a conversation, sit with them, maybe have cold drink or something, and you know, but be there. And that's what happened. Like, these people, they opened up to me. um at the university, the professors, the students, it was a mix and everyone was so welcoming. And that's where I felt the difference, that, okay, there is a British etiquettes, there is, you know, politeness and, you know, sort of softness in the UK culture. And there are good people, there are bad people everywhere. But at the end of the day, what you see on a media is not the reality on the ground. It's just like, you know, before election, everything starts getting fucked up. It's not just with the UK, it's same with the US, with India and everywhere. The moment election comes into place, things started.
Well, yeah, and we have to bear in mind that the whole point of the media is to document the extreme situations that happen in a society. So it's always going to be capturing the extreme, right? And I agree with you. I think a lot of the polarization that we see in society is very much down to the media, whether it's the old media or new media. They're both culpable and responsible.
Yeah.
And it paints, I agree. I mean, I'm so proud to be British because of our tolerance and our acceptance and so on. I do agree that as well, though, with some points made on the more conservative side, that maybe we have been too what's the word I'm looking for? Too accepting and not doing enough to encourage certain levels of integration as well. I think there both sides can be true, right? I don't think it's exclusively one or the other, because again, it's not about the extremes, it's about nuance. Like, the media is all about the extreme, and it's like, no, guys, come on, it's the more nuanced conversation here. You know, we should be doing, and like I said, you know, having seen firsthand not only my family being immigrants to this country, but then seeing every day growing up, you know, other foreigners coming to this country and the importance of what it is to integrate and to meet people and to embrace, you know, the culture there, but then also to share their own culture. Like it's so fucking important. And for me, for all my life, really, my young life, I thought, oh, okay, that's the way it is. Like that's the way, you know, the way it should be. And it's only really sort of more recently in my life, I guess, I've understood and come to realize that there are very much large pockets of people for whatever reason, right, you know, their fault or maybe their neighborhood's fault or a combination, that have not had the opportunity to integrate. And I think that's what it causes tensions. Obviously.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously it does. That you've got two people living completely different lives right next to each other, you know, with no shared, what they can see to be shared values or whatever. Of course it's going to cause a fucking problem. Like, you know. But it's the
from
fault
the
of
both.
both. You know?
It comes from both the side, right?
Yeah.
As an immigrant also, you need to be very open and receptive about, you know, others' culture. You open up, you talk to people, and then you share your culture, and then you find a mutual ground where you respect both yours and, you know, theirs culture, and then share it. And that's where, you know, sometimes I feel that, okay, there are sometime happens when a group of people comes to the country and they don't integrate, and there can be XYZ reason about it. Maybe it's not it's that they did not get the opportunity to integrate or something like that. But if that happens, then I think there is a great synergy. UK ecosystem in terms of, you know, tech, in terms of the country, it's very good. People are hardworking. Whosoever coming to the UK, they are also hardworking. That's why they are coming. They want to work. They want to, you know, pay taxes and stuff. It's just the narrative that sometimes, you know, create that friction between two people, and then the thought process happens. So, yeah.
And also the line is constantly blurred between legal and illegal immigration.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really frustrating. Like, because illegal immigration is illegal. Like there's no question about that. And you know, when people say, you know, I'm all for immigration. Like I think most people are for immigration. I am not for illegal immigration. You know, people should not be coming to this country illegally and be given the same rights as people who have taken the time, like you said, the time, the money, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears. It's a difficult process to come here legally. And so, you know, I don't think that's a fucking controversial thing to say. It's like, but apparently it is. It's like, how is that controversial? It's just, there's a reason why one is called legal and the other is called illegal. We don't have that debate with any other types of legal and illegal activity. It's like, you know, like,
that's true.
I legally punched him in a boxing ring versus I illegally punched him in the parking lot. It's like, they're obviously one is right and one is wrong. You know, it's crazy.
I think immigration is going to be a sort of, you know, a topic for politicians to keep on touching base always. So it's not going to go away. And I think, it's up to us who comes to this country. It's up to you who are already there in this country to, you know, sort of bridge that, bridge between both the parties. And I think there's a huge scope of productivity. I mean, if I was not accepted into a corporate, a startup ecosystem, they would not have hired me, the founders of pictureframe.ai. I would not have understood the generative AI and that particular space of data science, because I was not coming from that background. And they were so supportive in understanding, and, you know, they understood that I have certain skill sets in marketplace and SaaS businesses that I can add to their businesses, and they had a lot of things that I could, you know, learn from them. And that's the relationship that we built. And today they are friends. Like, we are very good friends. Hannah wants us to, you know, align a meal with my wife and them, and that's kind of relationship you build over the time. And I think that is required for any immigrant who comes to this country. Build that relationship. It is very important for you to learn the culture and, you know, sort of integrate. That's the part.
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, it's interesting because, you know, back home, presumably, you wouldn't have made friends with everyone that was in your specific neighborhood, right? You make friends with people that you have things in common with and that you get on with due to shared interests and so on. But what's really interesting from people who I know that initially didn't fully integrate is that they come over and they just hang out with people of the same nationality, even if they don't really like each other. it's like they wouldn't, if they had met each other back home, they wouldn't have been friends. The only thing they have in common is that they were from the same country, and it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like that isn't a good support network. Like,
the problem with that is the sense of comfort, the false comfort that people get. So, and mostly you would see that in the international students who comes to the UK to study, and you will find that there is a groupies, like, particular region people are it's not just about country. You will find within country there are particular set of people who are from different regions of the country. Like, if I want to make an similarity with UK, I would say that Scottish people stays with Scottish people, and that kind of thing. So that kind of thing is there, and that's where the harm is. Like, you can't be like, for 2 years you had the opportunity to network, you had the opportunity to integrate, but you didn't, and now you say that you're not getting hired by an UK based company because you don't understand the conversation communication skill set that is required to communicate within the UK ecosystem. And that's the problem, I think.
Yeah, and probably your language hasn't developed as much because of that, and so on and so on. So yeah, it's inevitable. I remember the Oxford language schools for foreign students coming over always did a lot to help with that side of things, and they actively encouraged it. And it was almost like a unwritten rule that every foreign student knew, which was like basically to badmouth people that just hung around with each other. They're like, they're like, oh, they never meet mix with other people. Like, it was just like an unwritten rule. But what are some of the challenges you think that are specific to immigrating to a new country that just aren't talked about enough, and that you think that people should understand?
I think the biggest one, which is like the underdog, and I think that's what affects a lot of people, is loneliness. It's the sense of leaving a lot behind and starting at zero, right? So let's talk about Indian as an Indian community. We are like so many people. You are surrounded with so many people. You have a big family at home. You have a big friend circle. Every day is like, after your working hours, you chill out with people and stuff. So that kind of ecosystem you are already there in. And then you come to a country where you know no one. You have to study, you have to work to pay your bills, and then you have to, sort of take care of uh, other activities at your home, which is cooking, cleaning, and all those stuff. In India, you could have a maid to do all those stuff. So there was a problem there. Now,
or presumably there's so many of you in the family that actually it's far easier to keep on top of all those things.
It is. So here you need to do everything. You are lonely. You don't, and if you don't mix up with people, you don't talk to people, you don't go out with people, then you are left alone at your home, right? And either you would go down to a doom scrolling on your TikTok, Instagram, or something like that, or you will get into something that is, might create a sort of depressing environment for you. And I think that is the biggest pain point for any immigration, is that you start at a very lonely phase, and to get out of it, I would suggest that you build relationship from the start. Get out of your comfort zone. It is going to be very uncomfortable when you go out and talk to a different nationality on your day one, right? When I came in, I see a lot of people from Africa, from sort of US, UK, from Middle East. So there was no similarities between how we talk, and every person you talk to has a different dialect, has a different way of communicating. So it was very uncomfortable thing, and I would suggest to get into those uncomfortable things today so that you become comfortable tomorrow. And that's the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you give that advice, because of I think that's common advice I hear from founders in general to other founders, let alone to immigrants coming to a new country for the first time. But it seems to just be that it's always good advice in life to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, no progress can be made from things just remaining the same. So it's kind of obvious when you say it out loud, but it's very difficult. What I think is also interesting about what you said is, what about the loneliness side of things, is I don't think that's necessarily unique to being an immigrant. I think we all suffer with that, which in some ways, in an unusual way, should hopefully be some sort of comfort to immigrants who might be listening,
Yeah.
because actually, if you go and speak to someone, that you'll probably find that actually, even though they lived here and they were born and raised here, they probably have the same problems as you, and similar problems. And so actually you have a lot more in common with your fellow human being than you realize.
Exactly.
That we all feel times of loneliness and desperation and isolation and sadness, and so actually, there's commonality, there's common ground between all of us there, regardless of whether you've been born and raised here or just immigrated here, whatever. So I think that's a really, I mean, obviously it's everyone's story is unique, but I think it's important to find common ground.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was living in Huddersfield, and I had there were a lot of old people around me, and they were actually very lonely. And I've worked in silver economy marketplace, which was Freebird, and we were catering to this loneliness in the US, UK, in senior adults. And there is a lot of loneliness out there. It's just that if a person who's coming to the country is comfortable enough to talk to another person, I think that's where the solution is all about. I mean, you don't need to go to online for everything, right? You just need to talk to people, and that's where the solution is. That's where, and there are a lot of communities to support you and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I went with my wife and my children recently to our local library. I haven't been there in years. And it's like, oh yeah, fucking hell, there are places in real life where people get together and do stuff. I forgot about that. It's like, it is easy to forget this in our world, especially where we think so much about socializing being online, that if you do want to go and get outside your comfort zone and meet new people, literally just walk out your fucking door.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really not as difficult as it sounds. Well, I mean, obviously it depends on your situation. It may be a little bit more difficult, but yeah, I mean, the loneliness thing has been considered to be an epidemic for a long time now, especially amongst young to middle-aged men. And I can say firsthand that I've experienced that. I have sort of episodes of experiencing it still. I've talked before on this show about me taking steps to try and solve that problem, and actually part of it is doing this show. This is there's many reasons I do this show, and most of them are selfish. To be honest, it's obviously I get the opportunity to promote other people and what they're doing, and to hear those stories, but most of it is I love to hear people's stories. I love to meet new people. I love to talk. I love to listen. And it helps with the issue I have of being stuck in front of a screen all day, every day. And I work from home. Right? I don't have an office full of people. I don't have a working space, co-working space. So it's like, it's a real issue.
It's a real challenge. And I think a lot of VC money is also going out in the future of work and future of remote working category. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a next category that is going to pick up very soon.
And so it's going to expand even further. But no, I appreciate you sharing that insight there. I think it's really at least it's very interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to people listening. So I've had quite a lot of a very big mix of guests on my show, and a lot of them have been immigrants, and I always find it interesting, because of my background. My mother and father, they share the story of the very, very in your face racism that existed at the time when they moved to this country. Like, it was really, really in their face. And in fact, my mum tells me the story. Well, they both tell me. So my dad originally moved to London. My mum moved to Oxford, where they met. And my dad, Northern Irish, he always tells a story about how at the time, if you wanted to stay somewhere, you couldn't stay in certain places because you were Irish, and there'd literally be a sign on the doors of B&Bs everywhere that would say "No blacks, no Irish, no dogs." This was a thing that would be said everywhere, and the racism was just rampant. It was just common, cultural practice for the most part. Mostly, I think, within specific areas of the working and sort of parts of the middle class. And then that changed, obviously. And then for my mother, she tells me about how when they first moved into their first house together after they got married, no one in the neighborhood would speak to her. They thought she was weird. Obviously, her English was not that great at the time, but being French
Yeah.
Like, she's not even like,
Mhm.
crazy exotic, like the neighbors, but
Yeah.
being French and the very openly sort of racist and not
Mhm.
particularly interested
Mhm.
in wanting to get to know her. And it was only the Indian neighbor that was
Yeah.
also an immigrant that
Yeah.
she became very close friends with,
Yeah.
and as a result, then over time,
Mhm.
people became a bit more accepting of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But she would say how she would buy wine from and cheese from a very special trip, because you couldn't get it in the supermarket,
Yeah.
right? So she would buy it, and people thought like, oh, what's this fancy, you know what I mean? Like they look down at my
Yeah.
mother for trying to be all posh. It's like, I'm French. This is what we do.
That's really accurate.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it
It's
was crazy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think they would have to go through a lot of unfortunate things that I think today is not part of the ecosystem. But yeah.
Thankfully, but I am concerned that things might start going the other way again.
Mm,
Because of a small minority that do
mm,
not well represent their cultures or their
yes.
religions, and we're definitely seeing that right now with the issues that are going on in the world,
Mm,
in the Middle East and so on. And you mentioned that you're of a Muslim faith. Like,
mm,
do you find that the attitude towards your faith has changed? Do you feel do you feel any more or less comfortable talking about your faith in the last sort of 6 to 7 months
mm.
as a result, or is there not much of a difference for you?
I think so they would always be a little bit of reluctance
Mm,
somewhere, but being a founder, you become very open to all, right? you
mm,
you 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 become a founder when you have done a lot of things, you have talked to a lot of people, you have explored a lot, and you have bypassed that kind of sort of things that affects you.
yeah.
But what I could see from the world is that, yeah, I mean, it's a huge crisis at the moment. Humanity needs to be centerpiece of every decision, everything, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's something else. And yeah, there would always be a sort of fallout on either side. It would be the community in Muslim faith, it would be community on the other faith, and it's gonna be a painful thing for everyone. The common people are gonna get the most affected because they are getting affected. It's like, and there are lives that is getting lost, and at the end of the day, I feel that it's the people in power who are making the money, who are making the sort of decision, that are benefiting from this particularly. Otherwise, I would say this is like gonna affect everyone. This is not just one community, it's gonna affect everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Division has got some benefits to someone somewhere for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Like, I
definitely.
don't want to put too much of a tinfoil
Yeah,
hat on,
yeah.
but yeah, probably. But yeah, and I've talked quite openly about my Jewish heritage. I'm not a practicing Jew
Mm,
by any means, because I would consider myself an atheist, to
mm,
be honest.
mhm.
But I've talked before, and I've had some very interesting conversations before about sort of how faith, for certain founders, plays quite a key role in people's sort of entrepreneurial journeys. But I do want to just highlight the fact that it
Mm,
is possible for a theoretical Jew and a
mhm,
Muslim to be
mhm.
able to
Yeah,
communicate
yeah.
completely fine in 2024, for fuck's sake.
Trust me, you are not the first Jewish person I'm talking to and friends
Yeah,
with. I
and
have other
I should,
friends. I
yeah.
have other friends who are Jewish. I've worked with them, and
Mm,
there is nothing as sort of what is being happening out there. It's not there within the common people. It's just that there are some political agendas that needs to be taken care of. There are some
yeah.
resources that is out there in that place that needs to be explored by rich people, and that
And
has to.
let's be honest, there are also some Jewish people and some Muslims that take
Yeah.
things too fucking far
Yes,
and
yes,
do not
yes,
represent the
yes.
majority
They
of
do not.
people in those faiths
They
who,
do.
like us, just want to put humanity
Yeah.
first and
Yes.
have proper conversations about finding solutions to things, as opposed to just making identity and religion the
Yeah.
basis of everything. There's more to it than that. There
Rel-
has to be.
religion religion is very important in terms of it keeps you grounded
Mm,
on different aspect. It gives you a pathway, a direction, or maybe it gives you peace, right? It can be either of those things. uh, but it should not be your driving force to sort of bring chaos to the world, or
mm,
sort of bring sort of harm someone. So that's kind of thing that I'm completely against. And it's not there in any religion to harm anyone. It's just that the way it's been narrated into the industry and the media again. So yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully it solves soon. It's very painful to see those dead bodies and stuff. So
I agree. Yeah,
it's
I agree. Not a pleasant time, but unfortunately, I mean, I think, we're very quick to forget history, and people sort of reacting to this conflict in as if it's the first conflict to arise in
yeah.
50 years. It's like there have
It's a long.
been there are many Muslims that have been slaughtered in many countries for a
Yeah.
long time. No one's talking about. There are many Jews that have been slaughtered in many countries for a long time. No one's talking about. There are many Hindus. There are many, like there's plenty of people that have been oppressed and slaughtered for many, many years
Yes.
for a very, very long time, and many, many conflicts around the world. It's like all of a sudden people have just discovered what war is for the first time, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's not, that's not to make it to make it any smaller than it is.
Mhm.
It's a horrific thing, but it just boggles my mind that it seems like for the first time people have discovered the bad side of humanity. It's like this has
Yeah.
always been there,
It's
and
always.
I encourage people. I do honestly think like the most undervalued subject in the world right now is history.
Yeah.
It really is like undervalued, and I think there's a lot that people need to be looking back at and learning from to understand where we're going. Because if there's, even before this conflict started, people were talking about, communist values and things like
Mhm.
this and praising them. It's like, guys, read a fucking history book. Like, you know what I mean. There's a lot of value in looking back and truly understanding where we've been to
Yeah.
really get a good grip of where we might be going. And I don't think people are doing that. People are spending too much time being anxious about the future and the now, as opposed to really seeing the
Yes.
value in the stories that our parents have gone through, our families
Mhm.
have been
Yeah.
through, and our ancestors have been through. It's so important.
Yeah.
know?
That's where it comes, right? If you start reading and if you start understanding your history and what has happened, it would educate you and it would stop you from doing all those things that is happening around the world. But
Mm.
yeah, people don't want it to happen, and that's how it is.
I think there has to be a huge asterisk to that as well,
Yes.
which is bear in mind that history is always written from someone's perspective.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to bear that in mind.
Yes.
So if you were to read a book, read a book about Nazi Germany during World War II by a Nazi in Germany, it's going to be very different
It's gonna be good.
from someone based in the UK who
Yeah.
who experienced the Blitz, or a Jew that experienced. It's like, try and read a few different perspectives of history,
Yeah.
because although history claims to try and be non-partisan and non-biased, it's not true. Everyone has a bias, and someone has to write the history books. So
Yeah.
I think you have to take everything with a pinch of salt and use a bit of critical. Where's critical fucking thinking gone? Like, where's that
That's
gone?
that's
Like, we need a bit of that. Did you find a strange sort of pivot back to another question, but before we maybe get a bit too political? Did you find university was useful in sort of the soft skill of critical thinking and those other soft skills that has kind of led you to where you are now on your entrepreneurial journey? Or do you feel like you probably would have got to that point regardless, just from sort of working your way through the workforce?
I think it was not just completely the university, it was
Right.
about your perspective as well. So when I decided that I'll go out and do my second master's, I had three offers, one from Swansea University, one from Coventry, and one from University of Huddersfield. So
Oh wow.
so the idea was to, Swansea University has a very good ranking, one of the top ranking and stuff. So the idea was that, okay, what I'm going to get out of the course. That was first thing. Second, what area I want to live in and sort of learn about. And the third one was, I always wanted to build this, right? So what is the right pathway to go about this? And the University of Huddersfield had in masters there is always a dissertation project, which is, research project and stuff. So with University of Huddersfield, there was two things. One was either you do a research project or you do an entrepreneurial project, which is launch a venture, right?
Right.
And that was my key decision maker for, choosing that university. And I came down here. And then the university, the enablers, there were a lot of enablers in terms of, participating in competitions, understanding the research aspect of it, understanding and one important thing for entrepreneurs is that do you have a time to do the research, right? And that was my time. I had a year of masters to do my research, to understand the in depth of cross synergy, understand that okay, if I want to put a product in a shelf, then there should not be a direct competition between the store and the product. So one of the example I would say is that okay, if there is a women perfume brand, right, which is based in Yorkshire, and they see that there is a lot of demand coming from London, Birmingham, Manchester. I do not want to put a women perfume brand in a women perfume store. I want to build a synergy between women perfume brand and women lingerie store, which has the same ICP. A lingerie store is where women are going to purchase their inner garments. At the same time, they see that okay, there is a shelf which has a very good perfume section, and there is a sort of cross synergy. There is a consolidated demand
Mm.
that is getting filled, and that's how this model was created, and that's how the basics of this marketplace is that we will build a cross synergy. FMCG is a different category where you can put a direct relation, but in other categories that we are going to launch, it will be a cross synergy where we identify that okay, if you want to put a men's inner garment, it should be put on a men's sports store where there is a lot of synergy between the buying behavior and consolidated demand, and that's how our algorithm builds. So this was the 1 year that was there with me to research, to identify, talk to people, understand the research papers of different consolidations that has happened and how demand is changing. And yeah, at the end of the day, I did a lot of research, talked to end users as well, and in that research it came that the end user wants convenience and affordability as the biggest decision maker for their shopping behavior online or on offline. So that's what we are going to build, that it should be convenient for user to purchase, and it should be sort of accessible, like the product is available whenever they need it. So that's
Had you done that level of in-depth research before on a project, or was this the
nah,
first time you'd gone this deep?
this was the first time for this project that I
Mm.
found deep, and yeah, it was good. It
Because
was
something that strikes me so much about your story is,
Mhm.
which I think is really remarkable and something that I think a lot of people can learn from, is the patience that you've displayed throughout your journey and still displaying, right? Because it's something that I find that it is a bit of a confusing message, and I totally agree, it's a confusing message in being an entrepreneur or a founder in the startup ecosystem, is this idea of building fast, is getting to market fast, is
Yeah.
all that. And while I think there's certain elements of that are true, of failing fast and so on, there are also elements of it which do require patience and planning. And in your case, some of it wasn't intentional, some of it was forced on you as a situation, but it's still, I think, a really important display of a characteristic that I think you would probably agree is a very useful trait to have as a person, to just
Yeah.
know when, if someone says okay, stop, that you have to stop, and
Yeah.
then when they say go, you have to go, and to not get frustrated about it and give up, but to just use that time wisely to
Yeah,
go.
I think, yeah, I completely agree. And the problem is that being a first time founder, you get affected by those narratives a lot that, build
Mm,
fast, launch fast,
yeah.
fail fast, and stuff like that.
It's in every fucking book you read. It's in
Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah.
article. It's like it's everywhere, right?
Any video you see of Y Combinator or anywhere, you would see that, okay, uh, you need to launch fast and fail fast and stuff. The idea is that okay, those things are all right. They obviously, if they are saying, obviously they might have had that experience, that's why they are saying, and it could be right, but every journey is different, every use case is different, every product is different. Is that how much time you want to take and build something that you are 100% sure about, right? And and I had the time already with me. Like I could not do anything. I was doing my master's. I could not do anything. So I invested that time into doing the deep research, and that has, secured me distinction in my master's, in my project, as well as it has helped me, obtain that notoriously hard visa, which was evaluated by one endorsing body, Home Office, and then it was allotted to me. And so you need to have that in-depth knowledge, and that would come only if you do a deep research. Yes, there are ways where you just simply launch a website and start talking to customer, and that is a different entrepreneurial journey. You can launch fast and fail fast, but we had time. We thought, okay, we will use everything that we have. And as I said, I as an entrepreneur, bootstrap entrepreneur, you either build network or resources. So whatever we get, whatever we had access to, we did that. We took time, we took sort of help from other founders and advisors, and yeah, that's how we build it. And I'm very happy that we took that time. And that's how, building a cross synergy model, a machine learning model, it would take time, right? It would
Mm.
take a lot of data, it would take a lot of behavioral data and insights and stuff. So you need to be patient. And this is the marketplace. If you believe that you're building it for next 10 years, I mean, spending a bit of few 8 9 months is, it's good enough to build something for next 10 years.
And that's it. And you have a vision that extends beyond just the initial concept of the
Yes,
marketplace.
yes,
It's a vision that has very clear phases and
yes.
stages to it, which I think is something that, again, even speaking to the amount of founders that I do, as you know, which is a lot, like quite
Mhm.
often, there comes a point in these conversations where I'm like, you're not building the platform you think you are.
Yeah,
You're saying you're
it's
building
gonna
this,
change.
right? It's like you're saying you're building this, but actually you're going to be building this, especially when it comes to things like AI and the what that means for things like data and data processing and data resell. Like there's a lot going on, I think, where people
Mm.
don't realize that they're building an entirely different business in 10 years, that they think they're going to be building this as the end goal. And it's like, I think people need to recognize that, because actually they're misrepresenting themselves when they're talking to founders or selling their vision. They should be talking about that bigger thing as well as
Mhm.
these initial milestones. It shows bigger ambition, it shows bigger drive, and they just haven't even connected the dots like yet
Yeah.
sometimes. But but it's very great to see that level of patience. And I think like I said, a lot of people can learn from that. But I think as well, what you mentioned there about every journey is different is
Yeah.
such an important thing to remember. And
Yes.
again, going back to all the conversations I have, this is why, as you know, when we did our one,
Mhm. Mhm.
I ask so many questions before I
Mhm.
give any advice, because I'm sick and tired of people giving advice that is
Yeah.
just off the shelf advice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I call myself the no bullshit advisor. It's because that's bullshit. Like I
Yeah.
can't just blanketly give advice to everyone. That about how to go to market or how to do cold outreach or how to build operations, because it's going to be different for every single circumstance, personal life, family life, etc. So it's misrepresenting a
Yeah.
huge amount of the startup world, right?
Yeah, I think, and the another thing is that advisors are the most dangerous things in the world right now. So if you are,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where your thought process also comes in. So the advice that you're taking from, suppose I'm taking an advice from you, I would have to make a decision that what is the long run effect of that advice. Should I go ahead with it
Mm.
or not? And again, the thing is that that is going to change the whole thing, right? The moment I listen to your advice, that is going to change the whole thing, either for a good or either for a
Right,
bad.
right.
And that's where founders instincts come into place. And for me personally, I believe in taking all the advices from everyone, and then sort of align with what I want to do, and then sort of take the best part out of it,
Mm.
and
Just take the
place it.
time to consider it.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah, yeah,
rush and have
yes,
it. Again,
exactly,
going back to the
exactly.
patience thing, right?
Yes, you need
It's
to have
taking
that.
it, take the time to take it in, and then take the time to think about it,
Yes.
and then go from there. Yeah. Good.
Yes, yes. It's like rash driving. If you just suddenly do a rash driving, there's a high chances of you getting into an accident or something like that.
Mm,
So take
mm.
time, have a breather, and then analyze. And all the people who gives the advice, I believe that they are giving it because they have learned something over the period of time,
Right.
right? They have analyzed it, and they have a playbook in their mind, or they might have it on their system that basically has seen the use cases that you are going through. So it's very important to identify the right person you're going to talk to. If you're not sure, don't talk to the person, because at the end of the day, whatever advice that is going to come out is going to affect you. By even if you don't take it, it is going to be there in your mind that, okay, this person has said that, maybe let's do by this way or something like that. So firstly, be sure about the person you want to take an advice from. And if you're going on a call with the person, then have a detailed conversation. Be upfront. Don't hide anything, because it's like and one thing I feel very strange while I talk to young. So I do mentorship for young entrepreneurs, international students or students who are converting to an entrepreneurship journey.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And yeah, so I do that on TopMate. And the thing is that what I feel recently is that people are very skeptical about sharing their ideas.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, if you give me an opportunity to shout my idea in front of 100,000 people, I would happily take that opportunity and shout it out. Because the thing is that it's never about the idea. It's never like, so far I had 10 plus ideas to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
It's just that what is practical, how you are driven to solve this problem, and what's the operational excellence that you have. So that's where it all lies, and that's what I feel is the problem. With
I
these
agree.
students.
I feel very strongly about the idea that founders or one aspiring founders don't want to share their ideas. It's fucking stupid. Like, no one, if someone steals, first of all, no one is going to steal your idea.
Yeah.
But number two, if they do, and they do it well, then they've solved the problem that you were passionate about solving. So you should be happy, right?
Yeah.
And then three, if they do and they have some moderate success, competition is still good.
Yes, competition is very good.
It validates that you are onto something, and that go ahead, you can still do it. Even worst case scenario, it's still a good case scenario,
Yes.
But the reality is probably people don't care that much to begin with, actually, so because no one is going to be, or very few people are going to be as driven as you are to want to solve that problem or have the skills to solve that problem. So it's like, don't worry about it, but you're not going to get any good feedback onto whether it's a good or bad idea unless you share it.
Yes.
I had a pro bono session recently with someone, and I do this all the time because if as entrepreneurs, we have millions of ideas, right?
Yes.
For different startups, like every 5 minutes, they just pop into our head. And I've had one in my head for a number of years now. And then I met someone recently who was doing something fairly similar, but not quite. And they wanted to pivot to something. And I was like, let me tell you about my idea that I had years ago. I was like, have it, take it. Like, I think you're in the best position to actually do it. I think it's a great idea. I've thought about it for a long time. I've done the research on it, etc., etc. Like, have it. I'm not going to do anything with it. And you would, and even if I was, you would be better at doing it than me. Like, I recognize that now, and they're doing it, and it's like, I'm happy. I'm like, good. Someone is doing the thing that I thought would be a good idea. It's like, I want that. I want that to exist in the world. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's true. That's completely true. I mean, obviously you want it to happen, and it's the best quality for, like, I really admire that quality of you, that you understood that you would not be the right person to execute it at your current stage, right? Whatever situation you are in.
I'll sue them in 10 years time and take all the money.
Maybe they will have you on their board and sort of get involved with it. So I think there are a lot of opportunity. I think it's not the right thing to just crib about something and then sit on your idea, and if you don't do anything.
No,
you need
it's
to
not a good mindset from the very beginning. It's not an entrepreneurial mindset to think that way, and you will not be successful as a founder if that's the way that you approach it. It's as simple as that.
3-4 years back, I also used to think that, okay, if I want to talk about my idea, should I get an NDA signed or something like that? But the more I get into startup ecosystem, I understand that it's fucking painful. It's not an easy job.
Anytime someone sends me an NDA, I'm like, nope.
No,
I don't sign them. Like, when I first started doing angel investing, for example, there was a couple of times where I was like, oh, okay, this must be part of the process. And the more and more I was doing it, I was like, no, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. It's a complete waste of my time. You either want to tell me about your idea or you don't. I'm not going to steal it. I've got bigger fish to fry than steal your idea. it's just adding a blocker, and
Mhm.
it shows to me that they're not an investable founder. Like
Yeah.
there are very few circumstances in which I think an NDA does apply. Like if it's
Deep
dealing
tech
with
usually, yeah, deep tech
right
is
deep
something
tech,
that.
usually maybe something to do with I've dealt with some things to do with the military before. Okay,
Mhm.
certain areas of medicine, we're talking about proprietary stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, fine, but usually that's explained up front,
Yes.
and so you're like, okay, I have the context now, I understand. And I've had that a couple of times with some of the sessions I do too.
Mhm.
Fine, but they're confidential anyway. Like
Yeah.
it's like speaking to a therapist. They're always confidential. But yeah, other than that, it just demonstrates immediately to me that they're probably not an investable founder, because they've got a misinterpretation of the
Yeah.
entire ecosystem and the way that the startup landscape works.
Yeah, I
It's
think entrepreneurship is misinterpreted anyways, like in the ecosystem. People think
yeah.
it's very easy and it's something that it's very flashy. People always go behind that 100 million or 1 billion exit or 2 billion exit. It's like the sort of chaos that is behind that, the
Mm.
failures that is behind that, nobody sees it. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's okay, I think, I think we need to normalize the other forms of success
Mm.
within this landscape as well, which is, like you say, you don't have to go for the $1 billion exit.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go for a smaller exit, or you can not exit. You can build and maintain a good company. Bootstrapping is an entirely viable thing. You can be profit generating as a business. Like those things exist. Like there's many alternatives, and this is why, going back to the sort of blanket advice that is quite often given, I think doesn't work. For me, at the center of every interaction that I have with a founder is the human being, their individual financial circumstances. That we have to put all that first. Like that
Yes.
is the most important thing. So if I ever encounter someone, and I have plenty of times, they're saying, I want to pursue this, I want to do this. If I see a huge red flag of like, you're going to put yourself or your family or whoever in jeopardy if you were to do it this way, or to do it at all, I will say, because I feel like that's a responsibility as a human
Yes.
being, to be like, this isn't a good idea for you.
Yeah.
Well, either the whole idea is terrible,
Mhm.
or what you're suggesting to do it is a bad idea. Like
Mhm.
there are other ways of doing it in a way that is that can mitigate risk and ensure your well-being or your
Yeah.
safety or your livelihood. Like I don't want to see anyone fucking homeless,
Yeah,
like as a
that's true.
result, or just losing their mind because they're pursuing a strategy that will not
Mhm.
work, or
Yeah.
whatever. Right? It has to come from that place first and foremost,
Yeah.
and then we can get to the business side
Yeah.
later.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's a lonely journey. It's a something. It's a very harsh journey. You have to be very sure about what you are building. Very persistent about like
Mm.
what you are building, and then believe is the core aspect of it. Yeah.
Belief
That's
is important. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but not blind belief. And that's, I think,
Not,
and that's the really difficult balance to have, because to some degree you need to be bloody minded in
yes.
like your pursuit of it, but you
Yeah.
still need to remain fairly open to recognizing people with experience and authority to just warn you of certain things. It is really difficult to play that balance, and I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Yeah, that's why talking to people is important. Talking to
Yeah.
advisors, talking to other people, that's where it adds all the value, right?
Mm.
If you're just sitting in your room with your system and just trying to build something in your mind, that is not going to work. You need to talk to people, and that's it.
I think the biggest validation of anything as well is someone willing to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the big, you can speak to millions of fucking people and they're going to tell you all the different things,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like you've had today, someone's willing to pay for it. It's like, what else do you need?
Yeah,
Like, okay, it's just one person, but soon it might be 10, soon it might be 20, soon it might be 100. That's all that you could have as many people in the world tell you it's a good idea, a bad idea, whatever. It's all bullshit. All that matters is someone's willing to pay you for your service or your product. And that
Yeah.
is what a business is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if you can start paying your bills,
That's the best.
what else do you fucking need in the world?
Yeah,
Screw the advisors, screw the VCs, screw everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
like, and it
That's
doesn't have to be software. Like clean people's fucking windows. If you're getting paid for it, provide a good service, whatever it is. It's like it's all legitimate. And I think we need to praise the balls that it takes to do it. And look, we're coming to the end now, and I want to say I praise your balls, for it. That wouldn't be right. I praise your courage. No, I really appreciate you coming on, and
Thank you so much.
and I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. And we know each other now,
Yeah,
and that means that we are another connection in this world of the lonely entrepreneurial
yes,
journey. And so anytime you want to grab a coffee, we'll jump on and we'll catch up, and
sure,
I hope we'll do that again very soon.
surely.
But in the meantime, is there anywhere? Obviously, I'll put the link to
Mm.
ThirdRetail in the description, and to your LinkedIn profile, so people connect with you there as well. Is there anywhere else you want to direct people to or let people know about?
Yeah, I think that's like the website and LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to share my TalkMate ID as well, where I mentor students. If some students are
Yeah, that would be
watching
awesome.
it, that would be good
Yeah,
to
send
have.
me a link. I'll pop it in
Yeah,
the description as well.
I'll
That,
do
that
that.
sounds really interesting, and it's a shame we only just started talking about that now, because I would have loved to ask you about that. But
Yeah,
next time,
yes,
we'll definitely
definitely.
talk a bit more about that.
And congratulations on finishing your second season.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Yes, just about.
just
Just about managed it. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the next one as well. So yeah, it's a
brilliant.
great conversation that you're building and bringing on. So happy to learn about multiple people's their successes, and it's like as a founder you are able to relate with everyone. So what they are going through is it's very sort of inspiring, and sort of you can relate to those things. So it's great to learn about other founders.
And I think that's a really kind of ties our conversation together perfectly, which is just that no matter where everyone is all from or the journey they've been on, like there is so much fucking common ground.
Yes.
It's unreal, and that's why I love these conversations.
Yeah.
Because we're all really just going through the same shit.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, listen, thank you again so much for being so generous with your time and your story and everything else, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a fantastic enterprise, and I wish you all the best of luck. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much for having me here. Pleasure.
My pleasure. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you for listening and/or watching. Please like and subscribe and join in the conversation in the comments below.